Hello and welcome to Astrology in the News for March 5th, 2018. And of course, I hope I have a great show. Of course, every show is a great show. Why wouldn't you tune in for more great shows? But hey, I think I got a good one put together for you today because I did a little bit of out of the box thinking here. Because, we're astrologers, we like to think out of this little box we like to put ourselves in here. So anyway, without further ado, it's time for Yogic Wisdom of the Day, brought to you by a guy who I seem to like to pick on a lot, Deepak Chopra. I've never met him. I'm sure he's a pretty good guy. He seems to be going through a Jeff Goldblum phase right now, so hopefully maybe he'll move on from that. But anyway, the whole world opens up when we accept this moment, this very moment. Tell that to the Black Friday shoppers who can't accept the moment and they tend to grab stuff. Look at them all brawling and stuff. Actually, my female in-laws like to go shopping on this time of year, and it's like one big ass mosh pit. I mean, really, I broke my knee in a Pantera mosh pit, and I'm not going to do it trying to grab a TV, all right? I mean, Pantera was enough. Anyway, Stormy's interview is tonight, and boy, do we got some interesting astrology to talk about. I pulled up a synastry chart for this. Anyway, I hear that she likes to picture people in their underwear, so she does not feel nervous. Because if she pictures them naked, it's not going to make a difference. She likes porn. I won't do that. All right, so let's take a look at the Stormy synastry chart. One of the most fascinating things that I found out about a lot of the people I'm finding in the news in astrology right now is a lot of them have natal, like sidereal natal Mercury placements, meaning that they were born with Mercury in the sign of Pisces in the the sidereal zodiac, which basically is what I use. And if you don't know the difference between the sidereal and tropical zodiac, read a book. No, really, it's 25 degrees back, and that's what they use in Vedic Astrology. So read a book too. Read several books. Read the books that I review. So anyway, if you take a look right here, her Mercury is retrograde natally in the sign of Pisces, which normally Mercury is debilitated in the sign of Pisces, but when it's retrograde, it's called a Niche Bhanga Yoga, and what that does is it cancels out its debilitation. So it actually becomes an exalted planet, especially over time. So how this tends to work out is somebody may start in a position where their Mercury energy isn't functioning properly, but because it's retrograde, they learn how to use that in a unique fashion, like butt sex, and learn how to make a lot of money out of this. So yeah, this is pretty much the case in Stormy Daniels' chart. So she's actually, if you go a couple of shows back, I did her chart, and she's actually going into her Mercury Dasha right now. I just started in January. So taking a look at this chart, the sun is still in the sign of Pisces. Mercury is retrograde in Pisces, so I actually think this interview is going to turn out in her favor. This is in the house, her sixth house of litigation, and not knowing her ascendant, this is a solar chart. So we go with the moon right here as her ascendant, and this would put this directly in the sixth house, right? Actually, I think this is her ascendant here, yeah. So her ascendant's right here, Libra, so this is in the sixth house of Pisces. This also rules the 12th house and the 9th house in her chart. So I think this actually being in a sign of retrograde works out in her favor, at least in the time that Mercury is retrograde. When Mercury is no longer in retrograde, we'll have to see what happens. But for right now, Stormy Daniels has the upper hand. She's on top. She's not taking... All right. David Hogg, give the speech at the rally. You gotta love that. Yeah, no BS. And of course, lucky for him, he's going to be starring in the Malcolm in the Middle reboot because he looks like Freddie Muniz. Look at that guy. I mean, I'm sure the guy needs work. So I cannot find David Hogg's birth chart, but let's take a look because at the children that are supposed to be leading the next revolution in the future. So I hear a lot of these children are the wave of the future. They're going to get out and vote, and they're going to change the world. Well, we can actually take a look at the natal chart of this generation. And so this really depends if they were born during the Saturn retrograde or not, because this is actually for March 1st on the year 2000 when I was extremely hungover. So I was actually laying on the couch for a couple of days after all that partying. But Saturn is retrograde. Actually, Saturn is here in the sign of Aries, and Saturn in the sign of Aries is debilitated. Now, this is kind of produces a conundrum because it went retrograde. So if they were born during the Saturn retrograde, kids born during the year 2000 are going to have a lot of impact because they're going to be able to overcome their laziness and idleness in order to actually start something. But if they were born outside of the Saturn retrograde, chances are that they're not going to do anything with it, actually, because this is also conjunct Jupiter too. So this is actually at a time when, yeah, I don't really, how do I put it? I think, this generation will have some impact. And also too, if you take a look at Neptune is also conjunct K2 here in the sign of Capricorn. This is actually a little more conservative too. Neptune being in the sign of Capricorn conjunct the South Node. So I don't think revolution is really going to go the way that people think about it. Now, if you take a look at this from a tropical standpoint, I could understand that, but I use the sidereal zodiac, and because it's better and it's better at mundane predictions. So I think going long term, this is probably going to cause some change, but nothing radical or revolutionary, okay? Especially not from this group of kids. Like I said, because if they were born not outside of the Saturn retrograde, they probably don't give a crap. All right. So if you are a Loyola Chicago fan, they finally made it to the Final Four. Of course, everybody loves a Cinderella story from college basketball, especially my wife. I want the strong to win and the strong to succeed. But if we take a look at Loyola, I did not know that their mascot was a geriatric person. Did you see that? I see them rolling this old lady all over the floor. I'm just like, wow, that's one heck of a mascot, dude. I wonder, like, you know what? I hope when I'm at that age, I can be the mascot for Loyola. But anyway, I digress. This is Sister Jean, a lovely chaplain, 98 years old. And I found her birth chart. I actually don't know the time that she was born, but this is actually very amazing because I say it's amazing because this is actually a very good chart of somebody that would be a chaplain or a priest. And the reason why I say that is the sign of Cancer. A lot of people don't know this, but the sign of Cancer is really geared toward like preaching, teaching, religious service, healing services, really caring. And so she has her Mars and her Jupiter, especially Jupiter in Cancer. You see people that are chaplains, priests, people that lead religious movements really have a lot of heavy Cancer placements, especially with Jupiter. Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer and Mars is debilitated. So when you have a debilitated Mars, usually people like this are not very aggressive, or if they're male, they tend to repress their emotions. Another very fascinating thing, I did not notice this about Sister Jean until I was looking now, Pluto is almost exactly conjunct the moon. That's really interesting. I wonder what a conversation. I bet this lady can actually read people very well. And usually when people have Pluto Moon conjunct, they kind of have a connection to the subconscious mind, and also too gives them like an insight into mass collective consciousness. So this is a very interesting chart. Let's see, what else does she have? Sun conjunct Saturn. Usually that can mean somebody that has issues with their father, or, and also too, when you have the Sun in Leo, it's a sign of leadership, but when it's conjunct Saturn, it shows somebody that can be reluctant to take a position of leadership. So people that have Saturn in Leo, especially in the sign of Maga, can find themselves put into a position of leadership at the time of the Saturn Dasha. So keep that. That's something interesting. That's actually something that is pertinent to people that were born around the time that I was born at. So, and then looking at her Dasha system too, I think she's going to be around for a little while too. So 2021, that March Dasha flips over. So kind of have to keep an eye on her health around then. But that's 102 years old. That is freaking awesome. I really hope that I live that long. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to my channel. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at the, so my monitor, I got this like really big screen TV that I'm using as my second monitor. So in the future, I hope to be less ghetto and stare into the camera more. So, all right, I hope you thought that was funny. And if you don't know by now, that is my sense of humor. So, all right, everybody, social media contacts are below, and hopefully I will see you again for tomorrow in another great edition of Astrology in the News.